What do you need to do before you DJ your first wedding? We're answering that question in today's episode of the Wedding DJ School podcast. What's going on? My name is Josh Mitchell, and this is the Wedding DJ School podcast, where we have one goal to help you become a professional wedding DJ, one that can make money, that can get out there, connect with people, add energy, excitement, and enthusiasm to all kinds of events. And I'm so excited to be here with you right now talking about what you need to do before you DJ your first wedding. We're very intentional about what we learn on this podcast. So we don't just listen to information and then carry about our day. We take what we learn and then we do it. We take what we learn and apply it to our lives. And that's when information becomes valuable, when you can actually do something with what you hear. So we make that really easy by having a PDF action guide for every episode of the podcast, which you can get at weddingdjschool.com/podcast. To get today's PDF, you click on episode 3 and put in your email, and we will get that over to your inbox as soon as possible. You can also get it by texting Wedding DJ to 44222, and we will ask for your email and then send it over that way. So we want to make it really easy to apply what we're going to talk about in today's episode, and especially if you're doing something else right now, if you're working out, or if you're mowing the lawn, or if you're driving, or whatever, you might not be in the frame of mind right now to apply what we're going to talk about. So use that PDF strategically to take what you've heard here today and to be able to do it beyond listening to this show. So what do you need to do before you DJ your first wedding? 2 things. You need to do your time, and you need to experience emotional labor. You need to do your time, and you need to experience emotional labor. What do I mean by you need to do your time? The idea of doing your time is getting out there and gaining the right combination of experiences that's going to allow you to have success at your first wedding. So if you've already done your first wedding or your second wedding and you're kind of in the early stages of your business, this information is still going to apply to you because especially in your early days, you're looking for as many of the right kinds of experiences. We can call them educational experiences that are going to help you to be able to do a really great job under pressure at a wedding. So I never would just recommend that somebody just goes out tomorrow and DJs a wedding if they don't have any kind of experience in front of crowds, with music, connecting with people and knowing how to put on a good event. And that's what I mean by doing your time, that you kind of gain the right combination of experiences that allows you to be really successful when it comes time for wedding day. And if you talk to any successful person, they're usually going to explain that at the beginning part of their journey, when they first started off, there was a season of time that they didn't know what they were doing, that they felt like they were a fraud, that they were looking at the work that they were producing and comparing that to an ideal, and it just didn't match up, and they felt de-energized, they felt demotivated, they felt like a failure. And if you've ever kind of looked at any kind of motivational stuff out there, failure right now, a lot of people are talking about it. You'll hear phrases like fail forward or fail your way to success. But failure is not fun. And it's easy to talk about. It's easy, yeah, let's go out and let's fail. But failure in the moment should produce a kind of a gut feeling at the bottom of your stomach where you're like, I'm not so sure about this anymore. And I've had my fair share of experiences where I have done an event, I've performed, or I've been behind the turntables, and I have felt like, what am I doing right now? I'm not qualified to do this. Maybe I should never do this ever again. And I'm not saying that you have to feel like that or that you have to have those exact emotions, but any successful person, you look across the board and you hear about people's stories. I think it's always good to look at people's biographies and hear them talk about their early days. There's a podcast by Guy Raz on NPR called How I Built This, and he interviews people that have started successful businesses, and he always asks them how they started off. What was it like in the early days? And it's a really interesting show that I love myself, and maybe you'll think is interesting as well. But when you listen to all these people, they experienced different things that led them to where they are today. They experienced different levels of failure. And when I say the right kind of experiences, you're looking for a combination of different things. You're looking for the ability to connect with people before the event actually happens. You're looking for the ability to connect with people when you're playing your music and when you're behind the turntables and when you're on microphone and those kinds of things. And that's then going to allow you to at a wedding be that much more confident, to be that much more ready for when something goes wrong, you have a response because you've been through it before in a different context. But being a wedding DJ, people always want to have an experienced wedding DJ. And if you're thinking about getting into this business and you're like, well, how do I get experienced? If all these other DJs are experienced and you need experience to get hired, what do I do right now with zero experience? And I'm going to give you some practical advice right now that you can at least consider. And it might be different for your area. So I don't know where you live. I don't know what terms are going to align right here for our for the purposes of this conversation. But in your area, you might need to translate some of this stuff to make sense to your specific, situation. But there's probably a school or an education group that puts on different kinds of events. So school, community, church, education group, etc., is going to put on some kind of event. Even if you're in a homeschool community, or if you're homeschooled and you're like, I don't have an organization, a lot of times there are homeschool networks or people that are that kind of come together in a cohort fashion, and they put on different kinds of events. But what you want to do is you want to find the point person or the event planner for one of these events in your community. And when you find that person, you now have the opportunity to offer your services as a DJ to serve that event, to be able to do that event, to be able to pull off that event. And this is what I mean by doing your time. So many people will say, oh, well, I want to DJ weddings. I want to make the big bucks. And they're ready to, just jump in and go for it. But the point is, before you can get to that level, before you can really make the big bucks, before you can DJ a wedding, you have to have some fundamental understandings of how events work, of how planning works, about what it means to perform, what it means to entertain. And these school events and these different kind of community level events have very similar moments and very similar routines that will often find themselves at weddings as well. So there'll be some kind of planning stage. There'll be a stage of figuring out what the timeline of that event is going to look like, what announcements need to be made, when there's going to be a certain kind of dancing, when there's going to be background music, when there's going to be kind of an introductory period. So doing these events, you might think these are nothing like weddings, but there is actually a lot that's in common, like with a regular school dance or with a fundraiser, that is in common with a wedding, where you're on the microphone. At some point, you're playing background music. At some point, you're trying to get people out of their seats and dancing. You're setting up your equipment. You're tearing your equipment down. You're working with a coordinator. You're communicating with people. These are all the things that you have to do in order to do your time. And at each of these levels, you might experience failure. You might experience some setbacks or some challenges or some snags in your own system. And to do your time means that you have done this more than once, that you have gotten out there with your equipment and you've DJ'd and you've worked with people and you've set up and you've torn down, and you know what it's like to get through an event from beginning to end over and over. Because when you do your first wedding, you don't want to be figuring out how to plug in your speakers. You don't want to be figuring out what to say on the microphone in the moment. You want to have already done this before in other contexts. So to get that kind of experience is really easy. All you have to do is take on the identity of a wedding DJ. So some people will just say, oh, well, I just want to dip my toe into the water. I'm not sure if this is something that I want to do long term. If you want to be a wedding DJ, you need to start identifying as a wedding DJ, or just a DJ in general, and to say, hi, I'm a DJ. And that kind of confidence, that kind of statement, that kind of clarity, that kind of very straightforward identity is how people will then associate you when they're thinking of their next event. So you might encounter somebody at a school or at another organization, and they don't need you right now, and you'll experience that rejection. And you're learning in that moment what a lot of people, a lot of wedding DJs go through when the bride or the groom or the family doesn't choose you as your services. So even dealing with a rejection at that kind of prospecting level, when you don't even have the event yet, is something that's very real to deal with. So you want to let people know, I'm a DJ. I can help to make your event a success. I can help to provide sound amplification and background music and to get people out of their seats and dancing. And what you'll find is that, some people might say right away, hi, I'd love to hire you. That would be awesome. Or, hey, we don't really have much money to pay you right now. Would you be willing to do it for exposure? I'm going to do an entirely separate podcast on why or why not you should do a free event. But if you are doing your time, if you're in this stage of your life and in your business right now where you're gaining educational experiences like this, where you're figuring out what it means to go through the different processes of putting on an event as a DJ, consider taking that event for the exposure or the experience. That is what the client or the person that's booking you is going to say. And I actually believe that you should get paid, but in your mind, when people say that, you can consider, can I use this event to learn something? Can I use this event not for exposure? Because they're going to try to sell you on, oh, we're really going to promote you, we're going to give you exposure, all of that. Yeah, whatever. Think about it from your perspective. What can you learn from doing this event that can help you grow as a DJ? What can you learn from this series of experiences that you can have in your hat or you can have in your list of experiences that will contribute to your success in the future? So I'm way more concerned about your ability to pull off a great event than I am exposure, because your ability to pull off an event is going to give you confidence. And that confidence is way more valuable than exposure, because now the next time that you introduce yourself to somebody, you can say, yes, I've DJ'd a great event. You can talk to the people that were there. It was awesome. And those testimonies and that sense of confidence is going to be way more important than any level of kind of public facing marketing. So one tip in this area is to find the decision maker when it comes to who's planning that event. So things that you can ask are, who's the decision maker to make this event happen? Or who's the point person planning this event? And that's the person that you really want to talk to. That's the person that you want your name associated with that title in their head. So it should be your name and then DJ, your name, entertainer. And every time they think about your name, every time they think about their next event and entertainment, your name can be the one that pops up. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to associate you and your services with their event until they realize that you have something that they need. So that's why identifying as a DJ is so important, because it's going to give you the confidence to say, I can pull this off, I can do this, this is what I'm able to provide. But at the same length, you're getting out into the world. You are letting people know, this is what I'm able to do, this is what I'm able to provide. And that's going to be the next step of you becoming a wedding DJ, is adding that term wedding in front of it to say that I can really do this for your wedding. See, you never want to approach a wedding or a couple and say, hi, I'm just getting started as a DJ. Would you like me to do your wedding? See, people are usually pretty stressed about their wedding, and they're thinking about, how can I make this day good? They've got enough other problems that they're thinking through, that adding an inexperienced DJ to the mix isn't something that they're going, oh yeah, that'll be a good idea to do that. So how can you frame yourself confidently to say, hi, I'm a DJ, I can pull off great events? That's one way of getting around the, I've never DJ'd a wedding before conversation, is to say, I've DJ'd many successful dances and events. So you want to be careful about your language and just be thinking about how you can frame yourself as somebody that can really create a great experience, because you've done that before for other people. And that's going to be way more valuable, like I said, than getting paid $100 or $200, to DJ a small party. So I wouldn't sweat it, especially in the early days. If you are not getting paid a whole lot, or you're not getting paid at all, and you're really trying to earn your keep, you're trying to, make your way into this business, you've got to show up. You've got to be able to actually pull off what people are looking for before you can start getting paid hundreds of dollars and maybe even thousands of dollars to be a DJ. And doing that, by getting that reputation, by earning that trust, is then going to allow you to be able to demand those prices, or to be able to say, this is what I charge, and if you can't afford it, then you move on. So to have that level of confidence really comes from knowing what you're able to provide. So if you're not sure what you're able to provide, or you're not sure what you're able to pull off, you're going to feel like the world is against you. You're going to feel like nobody wants to pay me for my services. And that's true, because they don't have any evidence yet. They don't have any backlog or any data to say that you can do it successfully. So your job, just getting started right now for zero pay, this is what it means to be an entrepreneur, this is what it means to start putting yourself out there, is that you're willing to not do it for the exposure, but you're willing to do it so that you can prove it to yourself and you can prove it to other people that you can do a great job. And that is what's valuable. That's what people are going to pay for. So to get that kind of reputation, even to get those kinds of photos, I always say, like, if you're going to DJ like a fancy event, or you're going to teach an event where a lot of people are going to be there, do it for the photos, because those photos are going to be so helpful on your website, on your social media to let people know that you're a real DJ that can be out in front of people, that you're not just a guy with a controller in his or her bedroom, but that you really can get out there in front of people and create a sense of entertainment. Some other events that I'll list for you to consider are school events like bingo nights, ice cream socials. Those are the only two that come to mind because that's what my wife's school has done recently. Fundraisers, celebrations, birthday parties, corporate events, community events, neighborhood stuff. Think about your own area and think about where a large group of people is going to be gathering and how it might be helpful to have music at that event or sound amplification like a microphone at that event, and get in touch with the point person or the planner of that event. Let them know you're a DJ. Let them know that you can show up, and I think you'll be surprised where that might lead. The second part of today's conversation is realizing that what you do as a DJ is emotional work, especially a wedding DJ, and having a business behind that, really running the entire thing, is emotional labor. And the idea is that we're no longer in the industrial economy. We no longer work in a factory every day turning out average products for average people. Thank you, Seth Godin. Instead, we show up and we add value to information. We show up and we connect with people. And what we're paid for these days is that connection that we provide, that amount of creativity that we provide. And that's something that no computer is going to be able to take away. This is something that we're able to actually use the computers to create more value and more energy and more creativity. So every event that is out there that a DJ is a part of, weddings included, have a lot of complexity. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of emotions and expectations and things that are all around you. And one of those emotions is stress, and stress is very real. Psychologist Henry Cloud, in his book Boundary for Leaders, talks about the two different kinds of stress that will typically show up. There is a detracting or negative kind of stress, meaning that it pulls energy away from you. And then there's a positive kind of stress that's kind of like adrenaline, and it pushes you forward, and it, propels you toward the goal. And negative stress really is a part of weddings, and it's a part of events that are high pressure, where there's a lot of these moving parts and all of this complexity. And a DJ can bring positive stress to that scenario. So I've DJed several school events over the years that have had kind of a party giveaway type thing toward the end of the night. And those things can be very stressful for the event planner or the person that's involved in pulling it off, because there's all these prizes that you have to give away. There's all these tickets that you have to figure out, and letting everybody know about this stuff, giving away these prizes, can seem overwhelming, especially when there's like 80 some prizes to give away to a crowd of 500 people. So that is something that I've actually done now several times, and I've realized that what a great DJ does, and what I want to encourage you to do, is bring a sense of simplicity to complexity, to bring a sense of simplicity to these very complex events, because that's part of what you're getting paid for. That's part of what's going to attract people to you as a DJ, is not just that you're able to get music playing, not just that you have great sound systems and the ability to connect with people with music, but that you also have this ability to make sense of the stress, to take things that are complex and to be able to make them happen, to be able to bring a sense of simplicity to those. So every event is always going to have some kind of complexity that you have to understand. There's going to be a timeline. There's going to be a list of expectations of what people are thinking this thing is going to be. And the DJ's goal, again, isn't just to show up and plug in your speakers and see what happens. Your goal is to try to understand what that event's goal is and then make it happen, to put some emotional creativity into the event before it even happens. So it's this idea of an invisible and the physical world. So we've got the invisible and the physical world. And every event and everything that happens, there is an invisible aspect. Things that are happening in people's heads, things that aren't yet actualized in the real physical world. And what a DJ is able to do is kind of live in that invisible space a little bit and think about, people, all right, they want it to be fun. Well, fun at that point is invisible. It's ethereal. We're not sure what fun really is yet. But then at the actual event, when you're playing the music and people are, doing a conga line or something, That's then the physical world. So the DJ is able to make sense of some of these invisible cues and expectations, and then able to turn those in the physical world into real results and real action that happens for people. But it's not just that side of it. When you think about the invisible world, every DJ has something that's going on in their head, inside their heart, fears that you're dealing with, doubts that you're dealing with, insecurities or things that you're just not sure about. But you're also managing that in real time with what you're able to pull off confidently and what you're able to produce confidently. So it's this constant back and forth between the invisible world and the physical world. And as a DJ, it's your ability to get really good at both of those, to be really good at managing your inner expectations and what you are feeling about yourself, but also about the client and about what their expectations are in that internal world, and then to be able to turn that into real action, to be able to propel that kind of energy into making the event a success. So this is what it is to be a DJ. This is what it means before you go to DJ a wedding. If you can realize that everything that you do is making sense of the invisible world and then bringing it physical, it's really easy to then start thinking about, well, how can I approach this? How can we do this together? All right, so as we wrap up, I have a quick story for you about an event that did not go so well for me. And I remember getting to the event and just not feeling so sure about what was happening. I wasn't sure what the timeline was. I wasn't sure what the expectations were. And I was just, a mess going through this event. And at the end of the night, it really didn't turn out the way that I hoped it would. And some people, had a good time that wanted to have a good time, but I was a wreck afterwards and really feeling like I was a fraud, really feeling like, why did I get into this business? I don't think I ever want to do this again. And if you're experiencing that, or if you ever experience anything like that, let me tell you, you're normal. It's very common to feel that. But some people have gone through an experience like that, and then they just never do it again. They never become a DJ again. So to be able to live in that internal world and deal with some of those fears, deal with some of those insecurities and the complexities of your own mind and figuring out, can you do this? Do you have what it takes? That's a part of emotional labor, to go through some of these emotions and some of these things that are very real in the human experience before you're super confident. So to get that kind of confidence, to get that kind of just a level of understanding, takes time, it takes emotional labor, and it takes kind of going through the right experiences to get there. So in closing, I have a couple statements that I hope you'll consider. So a great DJ has experienced both of these things. They've experienced a transition that has gone great. So they're mixing two songs, and the transition is just awesome. People love it. They've also experienced a transition that's just terrible, and it's offbeat, doesn't make any sense. People are actually giving you weird looks. A lot of DJs have experienced that. DJs have experienced tech issues going perfect, so all their tech is all plugged in, it's all working great, and they've also experienced their tech falling apart and failing before their eyes. DJs have experienced when they've said great things on mic, and they're in front of a group of people, and the words are just flowing out. They've also experienced tripping up on their words and blanking out and being unsure of what to say, sometimes even saying the wrong thing and getting in trouble for it afterwards. They've experienced pumping up the crowd with music and seeing people get energized with a song. And they've also experienced putting on a song that clears the dance floor and everybody goes back to their seats and wonders why they're there. They've experienced setting their equipment up very quickly, and it's easy and it just works so well. And they've also experienced taking forever trying to put their stuff together and can't find a certain cable and nothing's working correctly. And the list goes on and on about what it's like to do your time, what it's like to start to become a professional, what it's like to show up and deliver on your promises. So emotional work, doing your time, very real stuff to consider before you do your first wedding. And I frame all this stuff up because we're talking about the long haul here. We're talking about creating a business that you're going to run for many years. So many things in life are focused on a quick hack, just what you need to know to do it once or twice. And, you'll find that stuff pretty easily out there. And there's a lot of great resources out there that'll give you very quick advice. But this episode and really this show talking about emotional labor and talking about doing your time is really talking about the long haul. This is talking about how long are you going to be in this business? And if you really want to become a great wedding DJ and turn it into a perpetuating kind of success on repeat type of thing, doing your time in the early days is important, and learning emotional labor is important. So if you've enjoyed today's show and you're enjoying the Wedding DJ School podcast, I'm going to do the thing that everybody always asks, but I want you to consider it if you have the time, which is to leave a review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps to make sure that other people can find the show, and I'd really appreciate it if you were able to do that. And I know that you're probably like, nope, not going to do it, and that's fine. But I'd appreciate it if you'd be willing to do that. You can also get today's free action guide at weddingdjschool.com/podcast. You can also get it by texting Wedding DJ, all caps, one word, to 44222, and we'll ask for your email address and then get you PDF action guides for today's show. So thanks for listening. Again, my name is Josh Mitchell. Wedding DJ School want to help you become a professional wedding DJ. We'll see you next time.